The ball is in the air, your player has the height advantage, maybe even the better stats, but somehow you lose the header. Again, your game is not cursed, this is about your poor heading technique. Let me show you everything from positioning and timing or defending like a pro to turning crosses to actual goals inside the box. And stick around until the end because there I will also show you a simple crossing trick that scores tons of goals. The first and most important part of heading in FC25 is positioning, and it starts before the ball is even played. Most players lose headers not because their player is weak in the air, but because they were simply in the wrong spot or arrived too late to challenge. FC25 rewards players who are already in motion and actively moving into the landing zone of the ball. If your player is caught standing still, or if they're positioned under the ball instead of moving into it, you will almost always get weaker animations and you're likely to be beaten in the duel. Instead, you want to be in a good body position with your player facing the direction of the incoming ball, slightly in front or beside the contest zone, and ideally arriving with momentum just before the ball reaches the area. The best headers in FC25 happen when you attack the space, not when you wait for the ball to come to you. That little adjustment, stepping towards the ball or angling your run into the zone, gives your player balance, power, and most importantly, a clean leap. You don't need to be overly aggressive or sprint full speed. Just being active and aligned gives the game enough data to trigger a strong animation. Even if the opponent has better stats, they will often lose if you're better positioned. And that brings us to the second key factor, timing. Timing your jump is as crucial as positioning, and it's where a lot of headers fall apart. In FC25, your header input works like a signal. The earlier you press the pass or shooting button, the more time the game has to set up your player's body for a proper animation. But if you wait too long and press it too late, your player might not react in time. That's because in FC25, the game needs a brief moment to prepare your player's body for the jump, and if your input comes too late, your player won't have time to set up for the leap, which often leads to no jump at all, or an awkward animation that misses the ball completely. So instead of waiting for the ball to drop, you want to cue your input just early enough, ideally as the ball starts getting close to your player, not after it's already past them. Think of timing like a rhythm. First, you recognize the flight of the ball, then you align your position, and finally, you time your leap at the peak moment. Nail that sequence and your headers will start to feel controlled. Now, if you're looking to level up not just your headers, but your entire game heading into FC26, this is the perfect time to check out our FC26 training course on the Guide Plus. Inside, you'll find targeted lessons across every key area, showing you exactly what's most important to master before the new game drops, and how to practice it efficiently. If you want to start FC26 ahead of the curve, this is where you begin. Check the links in the description to get started. Another thing players overlook is that you're not just trying to head the ball, you are trying to win a duel. And in FC25, the direction you try to head the ball directly affects your chance of winning it. Depending on how you approach the ball, certain directions are natural and easy to head into, and others that are awkward and difficult. You want to identify the easy zones, the directions that match your momentum or body angle, and aim into those because they give you a much higher chance of winning the header. On the flip side, you should avoid heading into difficult zones like across your body or backwards because those angles are much harder to execute and far less likely to trigger a clean animation. Trying to force a header into the wrong direction can break the animation entirely, but if you aim in line with your movement or just slightly off it, you are far more likely to connect with power and win the contest. So let's talk about defending air balls because this is where most headers are lost. In FC25, winning defensive headers isn't about luck. It starts before the ball gets lifted up high. When you're challenging a header, the worst thing you can do is to react late. The moment the ball gets lifted, you need to read the trajectory and track the nearest threat early. Many players try to follow the ball first and only lock onto the attacker once it's too late. Instead, the best defenders do the opposite. They watch the attacker's movement first and then adjust to the ball's path. Use L2, LT to stay balanced and locked in, and move your left stick into the crossing path, not just towards the attacker. Your goal is to get in the lane between the attacker and the delivery. This gives you the inside position and disrupts the animation logic. One very common question we get from you is if you should press the passing or the shooting button when contesting a header. Winning the header itself comes down to positioning and timing, but the button you choose does affect how your player approaches the duel and what happens after the contact. Use the passing button if you have time and space and if you have an unmarked teammate who is open to receive the ball. In these cases, the game tries to trigger a more accurate directional animation, but it's also more sensitive to positioning, so it's a higher chance to fail under pressure or result in no contact if you're not well aligned. However, if you're under pressure with no teammate support and you need to clear the ball as fast and safely as possible, definitely go with the headers with the shooting button. It prioritizes the animation that makes any kind of contact, even if it's not clean or controlled. That is why clearances with the shooting button are often more reliable in chaos. They have a higher chance of triggering an animation, especially when you're not in a perfect spot. Let's flip things around and talk about how you can actually use headers to score goals. But before we break down movement and timing, I want to solve a problem that frustrates almost every player. You cross the ball in, your striker is in a perfect spot, you power up the shot, and suddenly your player tries a volley instead of a header, even though the ball is clearly in the air and a header would have been the obvious play. It's that moment where you just sit and think, do I seriously need to pray for a header animation? Well, you don't. There is actually a way to force header every single time, even if the ball is played low in the air. It's called headers on demand, and it gives you full control in those moments. When the cross is coming in and you've switched to your target player, hold L2 LT and R2 RT together, then power up your shot. This input combination tells the game, I want a header, not a volley, not a flick, a clean header. Your player will now lock onto the ball with a header animation, even if the ball is coming lower than usual. It's a game changer, especially in those chaotic moments inside the box where one wrong animation can kill the goal. Be careful with your left stick aim though. Even if you're playing on assisted shooting, headers are manual in online matches, which need to be clearly aimed towards the target. Heading isn't only about strength, it's about timing, the movement, and attacking the ball with momentum. Too many players just stand in the box waiting for a cross, but that's a losing strategy. FC25 favors movement. You want your striker to be in motion, running towards the delivery zone just before the cross is hit. But sometimes the main problem is about crossing itself. No matter how aerial your target is, your cross might get intercepted by the defender. When you're running forward down on the wing to get a cross in, the central defenders are also moving back inside the box to cover a potential cross. So there are 3 things you can do with your cross timing to become more successful. When you see an unmarked teammate inside the box and you have a clear path to cross the ball in, do not hesitate. Hesitation gives defenders time to recover and catch up with your attackers, so as soon as you see an open teammate close to the goal, hit an early cross to deliver the ball to him. The other thing you can do is my special go-to method when the attacker inside the box or even the crosser himself is marked tightly. When you're going down the wing, both defenders are moving backwards, covering the passer and the target. The moment you turn around for a cutback, this will also change their approach, and instead of going back, they will start moving forward, and this will shortly unmark your target in the box or another teammate who is joining the attack from the back. Right in that moment, power up across towards the free target. You see, they became unmarked just because you turned the direction around, and you can simply use the header to score more goals. Scoring headers is great, but you will need the right passes to even get there. So if you want to create more chances that lead to headers like these, click and watch the video on your screen right now where we show you 3 types of through balls that break defensive lines and consistently their attackers in stride. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, take care and peace.